sweetheart. Thank you very much.
All right, guys. We're gonna go through the 135 today. The phrase 135 has apparently, it's got a patent pending on it, and it's not owned by Keller Williams. So we do have the patent pending, I guess, on, or trademark, whatever it is, on GPS. So we're gonna use GPS, although I'm probably gonna say 135 a few times. Here's the point of the 135. Anytime that you have a goal and you'd like to create a plan around that goal, you can use this as a tool to do so. Okay, so the one we're gonna focus on today is about your business, okay? Now, I'm gonna hand out a bunch of things as we go around today. The first one I handed out is the 135 for the productivity coaching program. Do you have one, Rachel? Okay, so here's the idea, and this is like draft one, okay? One of the main takeaways is that this is, all of your planning tools are living documents, okay? You need to make an adjustment, there's a goal that is no longer important to you, or a new goal that is important to you, then we wanna make sure that that's something we create some certainty around and a plan around, okay? So when I was drafting this, my goal was to have 30% of company dollar coming from the productivity coaching program, okay? That's of the Market Center. So just very, very briefly on what that means. When we collect all the 30% from the agents that have not yet capped, that is company dollar. Okay, so when you pay the quote broker, that is company dollar. We take all the company dollars together, and that is the total Market Center company dollar month by month. The expectation for myself and for the agents within the productivity coaching program is that that number would get up to 25% of company dollar, and that's basically considered a gold standard, okay? Very roughly speaking, we had roughly $100,000 in company dollar last month, in the month of February, okay? So therefore, the expectation would be that $25,000 came from this room, came from the agents that were in this program, okay? At a typical commission split, that's about 8 units, okay? Company dollar is probably around half of what it ought to be, if not lower, right? And as we grow the office and we make our agents more productive, and we have their friends that want to come to the office and have a similar experience, this number is going to be constantly going up, and so this number needs to constantly go up. So we're going to build the program, we're going to add agents, and we're going to most importantly make the agents that are here sell some homes. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So right now you're saying that of the whole office, what closes in a month, 8 of those transactions should come from us.
That's not the words I would use
No?
exactly.
Okay.
Basically, all the company dollar. So if you've capped, you're no longer contributing to company dollar even though you're having sales.
Correct.
So all the company dollar, I want to have between 25 and 30% of that coming from the people within this room.
Okay.
Now, more often than not, the people in this room are going to be made up of people who have not yet capped. However, we have about 6 or 7 agents that are cappers plus that have engaged in the program. Okay, so my big goal was by the end of the year to be at 30%. I'm going to shoot a little higher than that. Okay, so I said that there were 3 things that needed to happen. So that's my G. That's my, if on the G.
That's your G.
That's my G. This is goals, priorities, strategies. So my goal is right here. These are my 3 priorities. And my strategies we're going to list here in a minute, okay? But just to give you an idea of kind of how I have it broken down is those 3 things are going to happen with the following: growth, right? So we're going to need to build up the program sheerly by the number of people who are in the building, right? Productivity, right? And culture, okay? So growth, I had 5 ways that we're going to grow the program. Growth is we're going to have kind of a steady stream of business planning workshops, right?
So those are
We're going to
your-
get referrals from agents that are within the office, within the program, outside of the program, from vendors and alliance partners, from our ALC, from our top 20%, as they're growing their teams and all that kind of stuff. And my intention is to add at least 10 people to the program each month, okay? I'm gonna need some appointments, because I'm gonna have to present to each of the people that want to get into the program and say, you know, where are you at, where do you wanna be, what's missing, how can I help you, is this something that you believe would be worthwhile? Come and check it out, etc. So there's gonna have to be some internal appointments, right? Somebody, let's say like you, elected, that is in the office already, that will soon commit to productivity coaching. I'm gonna, you know, learn more about you and your business and what you need and all that. Then I'm also gonna have a similar presentation to somebody that is outside of the office at a different brokerage that, for lack of a better way to put it, isn't hitting their goals, right? So maybe let's say they're making 20 grand a year. More often than not, no one's got a goal of $20,000. We all got into this business to make more than that. And so where's the gap? If you wanna be here and you're here, I'm here to fix it. And you're obviously not getting any help where you're at, so let's talk about how to change that. Make sense?
Yep.
Eventually, we'll get to a point where we have some guests in here each day, right? The goal is for your business to be so awesome that you can't keep your mouth shut about how awesome of an experience this is. And you start to bring in your realtor friends or whoever it may be, and we have some guests in the room every day. And then to have a system where I'm basically putting out content to agents that are most likely not in the program to get them to consider it, okay? The next thing is, how am I gonna get agents into productivity, okay? I'm gonna do that by helping each agent build custom models like the 135, like the 411, like the economic model that we're gonna go over next month, right? We're gonna have each agent using a 411, right, which is gonna review their commitments, and one-on-one meetings monthly. Daily reporting, so you're gonna be expected to report your results, right? Some of you will probably choose high accountability, which is maybe every day, right? Some of you might choose low accountability, which would be every week. And if you don't like accountability, you're probably not gonna get a whole lot of value from being in the program, right? And most likely you're not gonna hit your goals. And that, by the way, no judgment. Again, real estate's not for everyone. This brokerage isn't necessarily for everyone. I don't have any doubts with the people that are in the room, but if you're not interested in doing what you gotta do each day, and you're not coachable and interested in anyone helping you, it's just a matter of time before you realize it's not gonna work, right? We're gonna have specific training levels for types of lead generation and production levels, and we're gonna be integrated into the 30, 60, 90 of the office to make sure that you know what you should be doing in the first 30 days, next 30 days, next 30 days. And I'm gonna be another layer of that support. And culture, right? How do we get each other helping each other, right? WhatsApp groups, kind of small groups based on, you know, what your niches are, how you wanna prospect, or, you know, are you the person that can't come in the morning, or are you the person that can't come in the morning, right? Are we gonna kind of accountability partners grouping up? We're gonna have some video testimonials, right? Story creation. I wanna create some stories in here, right? Elected joined the program, she got us a listing appointment within a week. Isn't that cool? Let's put it on tape, right? Let's tell the world about it. Because that agent that's either not getting any business done elsewhere, or the agent that hasn't engaged in productivity coaching that's already in the building that hasn't seen those results is gonna start asking some questions and be curious, right? Now, again, this is my personal, as the PC coach, plan. Make sense? So in order to execute this stuff, it's gonna have to be transferred into what I do monthly and weekly and daily. That's when we're gonna hit the 411 in a second. But this is an example for you to review what's the big goal, what are the key priorities in order to hit the goal, and then each priority is gonna have 5 strategies. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's take a look at one that is real estate related, okay? This is one that I had a couple of years ago, and this is my first attempt at a 135, and I did not execute on everything on this list, but it's a decent example of how you might structure it for a sales team, okay? So, more often than not, we're gonna let's work on creating a 135 around a business goal. As I said earlier, any goal you have, you could create a 135 around. So let's say I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, what are the 3 priorities? I'm gonna figure out a plan with respect to my exercise. I'm gonna figure out a plan with respect to my diet. And I'm gonna figure out a community that can support this goal, right? Whether it's an accountability partner, a coach, my children, whatever it is. And then with respect to my exercise, where am I gonna exercise? How often am I gonna exercise? Do I have to buy some outfit? Do I have to buy some equipment? Do I have to get a gym membership, right? How is this exercise, what's this exercise plan gonna look like, right? Diet, okay? Do I need to learn the difference between a carbohydrate and a protein and, portion sizes and all these kind of things, right? Do I need to start buying something? Do I need to read some books? Like, how am I gonna learn what I need to learn about diet so that this goal happens, right? Where in the world would I find accountability around a community? I don't know, I bet you could find something on Google. Hey, is there any accountability groups in Atlanta that talk about weight loss or talk about getting into shape?
Facebook.
Right? Facebook, right? So what's the plan for that priority? Does that make sense? Okay, so my goal I determined was to help 47 families. Now I always like to talk about it rather than saying units, like I want to sell 47 units. That's like a little dry, that was a little dry to me, that didn't speak so much to me, right? Essentially what that means is I want to sell 47 houses, right? But when you sell a house, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on, right? You're affecting a family, you're helping them build wealth, you're taking them through a big process, and it's very emotional, et cetera. Like, I wasn't crazy about the word units, right? It's just my head.
It's robotic.
It's robotic, and it's transactional, right? So I said, I want to have 47 families that I help this year, okay? Now, this was a good idea, but I didn't do it, but I'll throw it out there anyway. So let's say my goal is to do that this year. Maybe I can cut out 47 squares that are currently white as an empty, right? And post them around my computer station, right? So every day I walk in and I see 47 blank sheet squares, right? What's that tell me? It tells me I better get to work, right? So then I have a closing and I take a picture of the family at the closing table or in front of their house or whatever, and I plop it right there on there. Now I've impacted one. So I walk in the next day, there's 46 left. Okay, well, I better get going, right? So if you need a visual to help execute on the plan, let's do it, okay? If that doesn't help you, don't waste your time, okay? So I said that there's 3 ways that I needed to, there's 3 priorities that I needed to do in order to hit my 47 closings goal or 47 families helped goal, right? What I determined, and there's no right or wrong here, but I think this is a good starting place perhaps for you guys, is appointments, okay, growth in the database, and personal development. Yes.
I have one question. So for the 47, how come you didn't put like a date? Is that for the
I would
year?
recommend doing that, at least having it top of mind. But for me, it was by the end of the year.
By the end
This
of
was
the
my
year.
this was my
Is that-
2017 goal or whatever it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you would do this on January 1st, or?
I would do this on
October.
like August or September 1st,
No, all I'm saying,
right? Because in order to, some of this stuff might be, hopping on an airplane and going to get training that I need in order to pull this off.
okay.
Or I might need to buy some stuff in order to pull this off. Let's say I want to write a bunch of note cards. I don't want to, think about where I'm going to buy them on January 1st. I want there to be a stack ready to go, right? So you don't do your business plan on January 1st. You do your business plan a few months before that, right? Because it may get to the point where you say, oh my gosh, I can't do all this myself. So I better figure out who's going to help me execute on this, and I can't figure that out on January 1st because I'm already behind, right? So the next thing, so just a little bit of background. So for probably 5 or 6 years prior to this, I had been building what essentially was a sphere of influence referral-based business, repeat client business. And for a number of years in a row, it spit out about 25 closings and another probably 15 to 20 things. Most of the time that was some type of lease. I did a lot of leases in the beginning, right? You remember those days, right? So at the height of it, I probably had about 25, 30 leases that I dealt with and another 20, 25 sales that I dealt with, right? The issue is the size of my current database wasn't spitting out enough business to hit 47 closings, and I knew that, right? So not only did I need the appointments, but I also needed to grow the database. So this is how am I gonna use the database to get appointments? This is how do I find more data or more people, right? Because the couple hundred that I had in my database wasn't spitting out enough units. It wasn't enough families to pick through to figure out the 25 that we're gonna buy, or the 50 that we're gonna buy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next goal was personal development. So I looked at this and I said, oh my gosh, 90-something appointments, 91 appointments. 52 of them with sellers and 39 of them with buyers. And I gotta grow the database by 500 people a year, which by the way is only 2 a day. But I looked at that and I said, I'm not the guy that can pull that off, right? Those goals are too big for me today. So I'm gonna have to become a different person in order to pull that off. Does that make sense? So I don't know that I have the bandwidth. I'm not sure if I have the energy. I'm not sure if I have the confidence. I'm not sure if I have the skill set. I'm not sure if I have the tech resources, whatever it may be, to become the type of person I need to become in order for these things to happen without fail. So what do I have to do myself in order to become the type of person who can accomplish these goals? Does that make sense? Okay. So for example, let's say I have a goal to run a marathon. This dude ain't running a marathon. The dude who runs a marathon is gonna have to look a little different. He's gonna have to have little different habits.
It's gonna look more like Aubrey.
Well, we can edit that out.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going for a jog, and
How-
18 miles later, he's like, ah,
Yeah, how,
ready to go to the gym?
yeah, how, a scale of 1 to 10, how honest you want me to be?
You're supposed to ask that prior to.
Oh, that's right, I forgot. Okay.
Right, yeah,
Forgive me.
it's Marie. Okay. It might happen. It's not on my 411 this year, though.
I don't know why it would be on anybody's 401, to be honest with you, it's a ridiculous idea.
Well, it's probably not gonna be on yours.
Not till I get my hip fixed.
Right. Okay, so I said I need to exercise, I gotta have a growth plan, I'm gonna develop some habits, I'm gonna serve on the Agent Leadership Council, and I'm gonna have an accountability partner and a coach. Right? That's how I'm gonna change so that this stuff happens. Does that make sense?
It doesn't,
Okay.
I don't know how to make it work for me.
So now we can go in and look specifically on what some of my tasks were that I was gonna use, what some of the strategies were. So let's look at that together. So at the time, I was doing a conversion, which is like a, essentially like pay-per-click where, you know, people click on Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever, and they get funneled into your website and you get an alert that they came into your world, and then you start, soliciting their business, right? At the time, I was working with a buyer's agent, and I was thinking about bringing on another one, right? I was gonna commit to 2 hours of lead gen per day, 5 days a week. I was gonna commit to Cole, which is the dialer that we looked at, or the data source that we looked at earlier that everyone that's in PC gets for free, for circle prospecting and rental farming. What I meant by that is I said, gosh, where are all the people that are soon gonna buy $3, $4, $500,000 houses, right? Gosh, that's a really fancy apartment complex. These people are paying like $2,300 a month to live in an apartment, right? Nothing wrong with that, but chances are they should be buyers. And when they become buyers, they're gonna be buying houses that I get paid a lot of money to help them do, right? So where do those people live? So I said, I'd like to know those people, right? So I said, that's where I'm gonna focus some energy, right? What else? I'm gonna have some goals and some tracking, right? I gotta get consistent on setting the goals and tracking the goals and making sure that I'm on progress. And also said I'm going to create like 3 groups of people that are gonna help me set these appointments. One is gonna be what I called core advocates, okay? And I was looking to attain 30 of those. Advocates, which I was looking to attain 120, and allied resources, which I didn't have a number by. If you read MREA, they define what these terms are. For a lack of a better way to put it, allied resources are people like your banker, your lender, your attorney, your person who cuts the grass, the person who does the landscaping, the person who changes the HVAC system out, all that kind of thing. These are people who trust you, know you, and might send you business. Okay, an allied or a advocate is kind of the inner circle, right? It's somebody who would, let's say, then, an advocate is two people back in the grocery line, and the person buying groceries says something about buying a house or, you know, looking for real estate or something like that. And let's say Marie is my or my advocate, she'd be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Here,
Call Bill.
call Bill. He's awesome, right?
It's like somebody.
They like go out of their way to help you.
Yeah,
Right? A core advocate would be like, do that and then be like, let me see your phone. We're gonna download his app.
right,
Okay, right now, let's do a three-way call. He's the best. He's incredible.
right.
Right? So like, what level of support are you getting from the people who could help you build your business? Right? Do they fling a card at somebody and say, hey, this is a nice guy, call him? Or do they look you dead in the face and say, Donna, don't you make a real estate decision without talking to Bill? Are you clear? Are you sure you're clear? Because there's a lot of crappy agents out there. Bill's the best. You understand? Okay. I want to watch you put his information in the phone right now. I know you think that's aggressive, but like, it works. Does that make sense? Okay. I knew I needed to grow my database. Well, how is that going to happen? Well, number one, I had to chunk it down. So I said, I'm going to add 20 seller nurtures and 20 buyer nurtures each month. So these are people that I had full contact information for, that I knew did not have a relationship with a real estate agent, that I was going to put into my database. Okay? Right? So a nurture is name, telephone number, email address, ideally address if you can get it, right? A time frame for having a desire to move, meaning not I'm curious or maybe in 15 years, right? And no obvious relationship to a real estate agent, right? Once you have that information, they're worthy of being in your database. Make sense? And a nurture, there's almost certainly going to be some type of promise that's made, right? Okay, let's sit down for a buyer consultation. Oh, I'm going to send you a three-way email introducing you to the lender. Oh, I'm going to introduce you to the person that's going to help you fix your credit, right? Oh, I'm going to send you a list of homes that fit this criteria we just discussed, that kind of thing, right? Every time I got a listing, I was going to knock 50 doors around the listing. Then I was going to pick 3 farms and become the agent in those areas, right? Through a variety of ways. I was going to host quarterly buyer seminars. I was going to do social media ads, blogging, video, and I was going to send out birthday cards. That's the way I figured I was going to grow my database. Doesn't mean it's the only strategies. It just means it's an option, okay? Just as a side note, when we were, so I had an assistant at this time, and what we did is we took every neighborhood that had at least one closing in it, townhomes, condos, single-family homes, in every North Metro Atlanta neighborhood. So that's like Dunwoody, Norcross, Sandy Springs, Buckhead, Midtown, Toco Hills, Peachtree Corners, Duluth, Sugar Hill, Smyrna, East Cobb, West Cobb, Marietta, Ackworth, Woodstock, Canton, Alpharetta, Johnson, all those, right? We pick, if you're in a neighborhood that has had one closing, and that closing was in the price range of $275 to $450, okay, I want a list of the neighborhoods. So my assistant made a list of every neighborhood. Then what we were doing is trying to find out, is there a dominant agent in these neighborhoods? I considered a dominant agent more than 30% of the market share that they were involved in the listing. And there was like literally close to 1,000 neighborhoods, and there was like 4 neighborhoods, I think, if I remember correctly, that had a dominant agent. The takeaway is everything's free, everything is open. You think there's a neighborhood agent? Probably not true. Okay, make sense? So.
Everybody's cup of tea.
That's right. And by the way, your clients are your prospects, right?
Yeah. My clients are her prospects.
Exactly,
Right.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
Right? And if you think you got an allegiance with somebody who's in your database that you haven't loved on recently, they may be being flirted on by Lecta. Or the other agent at Coldwell Banker or whatever, right? So that's why you need to make sure you get that relationship deep. I want you to know what their dogs' names are.
That's why we need, that's why 36 touch is effective.
Exactly, right? Any questions on that? Yes.
So, is that your closing or just any closing?
What do you mean?
You said any
Oh, listing I had?
that had a closing.
Oh, no, that wasn't my closings. What I was trying, or mine exclusively, what I was trying to figure out is there a dominant agent? And if I were to dump some money into trying to become influential in that neighborhood, is it gonna be fruitful? That's essentially what I was trying to figure out, right? And so I was on the point of the door knocking in the 3 neighborhoods, right? What do I wanna know? I wanna know, do these people stay in these houses forever? Because if so, that's probably not a neighborhood I wanna be in, right? This was at a time where, most likely, let's say a home in one of those neighborhoods was valued at around, let's say, $300,000 in 2017. Well, most likely that person bought the home in 2010, 11, 12 when the market sucked, and now they have equity,
Paid 35,000.
right? So let's say they paid, 200 grand for it. Now it's worth 300 grand, right? So they've got some equity in the home, which they're gonna in turn flip into buying a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house, right? Makes sense. So it's strategic. And this is gonna, I probably shouldn't say this, but I had kind of moved on a little bit from the working like the 150 type clients. I didn't want that. And I'll be the first to admit this is a bit of a limiting belief, but I also wasn't crazy about working in the luxury market, right? And, I'm not a member of any country clubs, right? I don't have that lifestyle. It's not important to me to drive that type of car. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I preferred, and plus those homes take longer to sell and they're more expensive anyway. Meaning it's more expensive to handle a listing like that, to market it, right? You gotta hire the airplane to take the pictures and all kinds of stuff, right? And by the way, these people are not used to hearing the word no, right? Because if you can afford a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 house, I'm gonna make a lot of generalizations, but you're typically in an income level that gives you some type of supervisory role, right? So you're used to,
Your way.
yeah, right?
People,
And so I preferred to work with the people who were just busy enough and just smart enough to know that they should just leave it to somebody else. Does that make sense? Right.
I had one quick question.
Yeah.
Before we go on, so what is considered luxury? What price range?
I think Keller Williams' definition of luxury, it's in the, was it the
750.
top 20% of the market price or top 15%? Metro Atlanta, I would say probably about 750 and higher.
750 and nine, okay.
Yeah. Right. All right, let's go to another example of the 1 through 5. Okay. This is an example, we'll do this one really quick. This was an example of my assistants. Okay, I wrote one of these for my assistant before I hired the assistant, essentially to prove to myself that there was a ton of stuff that wasn't happening that was important and never got to the top of the list. Okay? Because remember, we are not only doing all of the work, right? We're going on all the appointments. If you remember from my drawing the other day, there's 3 segments of a real estate business, right? There is lead gen, ops, sales. This is who does all the work that creates leads, okay? Inside salespeople, outside salespeople, otherwise known as like cold callers or, marketing managers, that kind of stuff. Ops is like who handles all the chaos behind the scenes, contract to close, building and maintaining all the systems, listings management, transactional management, all of that. Your runner, your bookkeeper, the person who delivers the signs, the person who drops off the lock boxes, the person who picks up all the signs, all that stuff. And sales is made up of buyer's agents and listing agents, right? And eventually showing agents and supervisory roles here. Well, Charleston, I'll pick on you for a second. You got all those jobs,
Yes.
right? You do every one of these jobs. This is your organizational chart. And your name is in every one of these circles. Oh, and by the way, you're also the CEO. Right? So this is working in the business, all this stuff. And if you have any time, hopefully you have some time because you're going to be an expert in managing your time, this is working on the business, right? This is when you're sitting in this seat, you're making the strategic decisions on how you and your people are gonna spend your time and your money. Make sense? So, what was happening is all of this, I was spending the majority of my time here and some of it here, and this was what was falling through the cracks, right? The systems, the planning, the tracking, all the record keeping and all that stuff, right? And I barely had enough time for this, and I just about definitely didn't have any time for this, right? And so what I did is I made a 135 for my assistant. So I said the main, I think I changed the title. It used to be Control the Chaos of the Family Homes Group, okay? The way that was gonna happen was by tracking the business, by communicating marketing to the database, and by an administrative for the business. Does it make sense? So each one of those has 5 strategies. So what were the 5 strategies? We used to use a program called CTE, Commitment to Excellence, which we actually still have.
That was so cool.
It is, if you're an Excel junkie, this is like heaven, okay? Lee can give you a password for it, it's free.
Seriously.
Yeah, we still have it. It's
We
only
still
like
have it?
$90 a month, or a year, I think. I think the Market Center still pays for it.
God,
I wanted to maintain whiteboards, right? I was doing a lot of recruiting back then, just personally, and so I was maintaining whiteboards on how, like, I spoke to this woman. I mean, if you remember, so we met from a Craigslist ad that I posted in a little city in Virginia, right? I had a plan, and interestingly enough, this woman comes here and we get to work together, which is pretty cool. I needed to maintain whiteboards for actives, under contracts, agreements, recruits, so I could see it right there in front of me. Where is everyone in the process? Am I moving them closer to where they want to be and where I want them to be, right? I needed to set up a plan where I was monitoring my daily lead gen and recording it, okay? I need a listings manager, okay? And I also needed to maintain a system for active and upcoming lead management, right? Where was everyone in the process of, I know you, yet I don't know anything about you, right? I know your information, but I don't know anything about your goals, to, I want to look at a home Friday, right? It's just really complicated when you have a ton of people you're courting, right? I needed to control that chaos, right? I needed a way to communicate and market to my database that was automatic and at bare minimum systematic, right? And to build the social media profile, come up with the strategic campaigns. I need a system for blogging, websites, BombBomb, which is a video software, and social media. I need to execute a 33-touch and an 8x8 system, which to that point weren't created. I needed to fine-tune my pre-listing package, and I wanted to make a commitment to texting 5 people a day, sphere of influence, just to say hi, right? So if it's on here, it got done, right? And when I said, Marie, I'm thinking about hiring you as my assistant, here's your job role. I'm gonna pay you this, are you interested? And you say,
Absolutely, yes.
this looks like an awesome job,
It
I'd
does.
love doing this
I
stuff,
Me
right?
too, I think that's right.
Then you do it and you keep your job. You don't do it, I need to find somebody else to do your job.
Makes
No
sense
big
to me.
deal, you're a great person, but I'm hiring you to do a job, and I need you to do the job. Make sense?
Yep,
We can be friends after work.
right.
But this role has standards, right? And no offense, but if you don't keep the standards, you can't sit in the seat.
So you're saying that we as new agents have to do this too, or some form of this?
If you don't have somebody to do it, you have to do it all.
Well, remember, this is kind of the job role of all of these people.
Right, but you're saying as a new agent, we're doing all of that.
I'm saying, as a new agent, your job is everything.
Yeah.
That is everything from system creation to learning the scripts to mastering the market, mastering negotiation, mastering the contract, looking at all the property, presenting to everyone, preparing for all the presentations, doing all the clerical follow-up for every single thing that you do in life, and being a family person, and doing the things that are important to you outside of real estate, and hopefully all that sends you some cash every once in a while.
Good luck.
So, that sounds complicated. You put it on a piece of paper like this, it seems a little more palatable. So I'm not saying you need to have every one of those systems in place. I need you to make some money first. However, understand that you're a business owner, right? And by the way, the only difference between you and the guy who owns that burger place is how big our paycheck is, okay? Because both of you have the exact same job, which is figure out how to get people that want to do business with me, give them the experience that they deserve, and then make sure that you keep loving on them, right? It's that simple. You wanna go sell insurance? Same business. You wanna go be a lender? Same business. You
Yep.
wanna go fix people's toilets? Same business. Where do I find the people? How do I deliver the service? And how do I make sure they don't forget me? It's that simple, guys. The only difference is we get paid a lot more. Right? So am I saying you have to do this? Eventually, the bigger the bigger your commitment to a plan, the higher of a chance you'll get to the plan.
Let me rephrase the question. So for us, we need to do a GPS that has the first thing, this new one. And all
Yeah,
the
so
different
I'm gonna get to a GPS for you guys in just a
Yeah.
second. I'm just giving you a couple of examples here, right? And then administration. So what am I gonna do for administration of the business that's gonna help me control the chaos, okay? If you look, I have I'll just hand this out, we won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but Gene Rivers gave us a 135 for an agent running a team that's gonna do 120 units a year, okay? Do you think it's possible to sell 100? Oh, you're done? Okay, perfect, thank you. Does anyone think that it's possible to sell 120 units a year?
Of course it is.
Yeah. How many
I think
people
so
on,
too.
how many people on the team?
His plan would have 4 total people on the team, including you. Two on the sales side, 2 on the administrative side.
Oh,
Okay, so we're gonna have systems, tools, and people. Right? What are the systems we need? We need a system for lead gen. We need a system for sellers. We need a system for buyers. We need a financial system, and we need a growth system. Okay? System for tools, command, your website, your app, collateral materials. Collateral materials is like, here's your first-time home buyer's guide, here's your, intro to seller's guide, here's your, what's going on in the Roswell real estate guide. It's a bunch of carrots, basically, right? Hey, free guide if you meet with me, right? And create a target, which is like what your farm is or your interest group. Okay, well, I'm gonna work with a bunch of people who, I'm gonna work with older people that are selling their final home and moving to a home or like a care facility. Or I'm gonna work with people that are first-time home buyers. Or I'm gonna work with military veterans, or I'm gonna work with divorced couples or whatever, right? Cool. As long as we have a plan, you'll probably make some headway, right? But wanting to work with veterans and actually having a plan to work with veterans, totally different discussion, right? So, and then people is, who's gonna be your team? Well, you're gonna have you, which is the listing agent, admin 1, admin 2, a buyer's agent, and the coach. Because I'll tell you what, there's probably not a single agent in Keller Williams that sells 120 units that doesn't have a coach.
I agree.
Not a single one. This stat from, I'll tell you a quick stat on coaching, and this should hammer the point home. The average, this is from last year, the average real estate agent in America sells 6 homes a year, okay? The average real estate agent at Keller Williams sells 9 homes a year. The average home, or the average agent that is in MAPS coaching sells 44 homes a year. So do you think it's worth it? I agree. There was also not a single MAPS client, MAPS Mastery client, that had been with MAPS for more than 5 years that was not an MREA agent,
A what?
in Millionaire Real Estate
Oh,
Agent.
okay.
So 5 years of coaching is $60,000 through MAPS, not to
Yeah.
mention free access to a bunch of stuff. And they parlayed that into $1 million plus business. Do you think it's worth it? Is it expensive? Is it worth it? Right? That's right. It's an investment. If I told you, hey, if you give me 50 grand today, I'll give you 55 grand tomorrow, but I need the cash within 20 minutes. Would you figure out a way to make it happen? It's an investment, right? If you look at if you look at the sheet of your binder, I gave you guys a really good one for a new agent, okay? I'll go print them off in a second if you don't have them handy, okay?
Is it because I didn't sign? You
Yeah.
did that thing yet? Okay,
Your binder's coming,
okay.
okay?
In this binder?
Yes, sir. So at the
Oh,
front of the
sorry.
binder is a blank GPS. So, and I'll send you all the, what do you call it, like the doc files or whatever, so you can manipulate it and make it look different if you want it to. And then what a potential GPS for you might look like as a relatively new agent, or even as a very experienced agent, okay? If you're experienced, I would probably be more likely to have one that looks like what I was drawing a second ago, right? Should be focused on your database, it should be focused on appointments. For new agents, it says, I want to launch my real estate career through sphere of influence and referrals and close X number of units by X date. Or I want to make 50 grand by August 1st, or whatever it is. So let's just say I want my income to be 80 grand by December 31st, whatever it is. The way that this suggests doing it is by building your database, feeding my database, right? And systematically touching my database. So they say, create a list with everybody that I know and include all contact information. Access command and familiarize myself with the contact section. Update to command a list of current contacts and add additional sphere of influence contacts. Organize my contacts by building system tags and custom tags, and add notes to each contact. If you heard something that you don't know how to do, I'd like you to all become, many of you are already, but resourceful, right? So if you don't know how to add a contact in command, do you know who might know? Google, Kelly, right? There's 1,000 videos on this stuff. The information is at our fingertips, okay? Feeding my database, generating new leads through my sphere of influence, generating new leads through referrals, generating new leads through open houses, generating new leads through social media, generating new contacts and information and input them into command, right? So which strategies do I want to use in order to make sure I'm adding people to my database each day? Is it gonna be joining some networking groups? Is it gonna be getting involved in the PTA or the, country club or, swim team or whatever, right? Going to networking events? Am I gonna host open houses? Am I gonna go meet every financial planner in town and take them to get a cup of coffee and say, hey, I'm gonna be your guy? I'm gonna be helping a lot of people build wealth. They're gonna need you, so I figured we should know each other.
Remember Gene Rivers told us when he first started that he felt networking was a good idea. So he'd get up and he'd go to the
I love this
Ducks
story.
Unlimited breakfast, go to the Ducks Unlimited, which is a
Oh,
hunting group, right?
yeah.
And to get those contacts in for breakfast, and then in the afternoon, you'd go to the Save the Ducks
Right,
Foundation.
he says like, I knew, this is, can I retell the story?
Yeah, just apparently you do it better.
Yeah, you botched that one. This one's one of the best stories of all time. You told me I could be a 10. We
Let's
go
go hit it.
way back. We go way back.
Hit it.
Okay, so he lost everything in Hurricane Michael, I think, or Hurricane Andrew in like the early
Andrew,
90s,
yeah.
right? And so he had to move, he moved from wherever it was,
Miami-ish.
Miami-ish to Tallahassee. And he says, I knew that I had to build my first of all, I knew that real estate was gonna be the only industry I could get into, that I could do what I want with my time, because he had 4 kids and a wife, and make a ton of money. Every other gig was gonna require, like the guy who owns the burger joint, he's probably in there right now, right? He was gonna do real estate. He said, I'm in a brand new town, I need to meet a lot of people. So I went to the busiest breakfast place,
That's right.
and I became a regular. Right after that, I went to the biggest and most busy gym, and I became a regular. After that, I went to the busiest restaurant, a breakfast place, and became a regular. So where I was there, I went and grabbed the newspaper, and my goal was to go to the meetings that were likely have the most people, so I could meet a bunch of people. So I went to the Sierra Club to learn how to save ducks, then I went to Ducks Unlimited to learn how to kill ducks. Then I went to the Republican Party, And I met everyone there, and then I went to the Democratic Party event, and I met everyone there. He said, all I cared about was feeding the database. I want a bunch of people to know I'm good at selling homes, right? The more people that know what you do and that trust you, right, based on all the things you've done in your life, right, the more people you're gonna have support from. Does that make sense? So this just gives you some examples of how am I going to find the business? And then the next thing is systematically touching my database. Heather, I'll get you a copy of all this, okay? Contact each of my contacts in person, call, text, email, social media. Add notes to each person after I create a command task, right? Remember, we want to know the point of every phone call should be getting data or updating data, right?
Or making
So-
an appointment.
Or making an appointment, right? I know it sounds a little dry, but the more data you have, the better of a relationship you're gonna have.
And the good news is people love to talk about themselves.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So Marie, let's say we're talking and you made a comment about your daughter just getting into Georgia Tech,
Yeah,
okay? Right. Or ideally what will happen is, Luke, put Marie has a daughter at Georgia Tech, her name's Sarah, put it in the database. Somebody else does it, right? Or I'm sitting there lead generating, typing on Skype, all the things that I don't wanna put in the database, but I need to get in there before I forget it, right? That's your job today, eventually it won't be your job, right? Because that's like $15 an hour work, and you guys ought to be making way more than that, right? If you bring up, hey, next 3 months from now, you're having a conversation with the same person, hey, how's Sarah enjoying Georgia Tech? They're like, I love this woman. Let me find some business to give to her. See what I'm saying?
oh, yeah, I totally agree with you.
So the more you know about somebody, let's say you know they love wine, right? And you go to a winery, and when you go to the winery, you think about the people who love wine. You drop the lady a little video text that says, hey, I'm here at this Silver Oak Winery. I was thinking about you. Let's grab coffee when I get back into town. That's not asking for business.
Right.
That's just showing you think about people. Make sense?
I have had good luck lately with just sending out something that's, whether it's a text or an email or whatever, saying, for some reason I was thinking about you today.
Yeah.
The only reason I was thinking about it is because it came up in the command.
That's right.
Think about it.
That's right. Because command is my brain. And it's gonna tell me what I need to do.
Yeah.
Right? And you teach you could essentially think of it as your assistant to some degree, because it's a leverage, right?
Because
So
you put
I
it in
would
there, it
tell
doesn't forget.
I would tell my assistant, okay, I want you to, every day when I wake up, I wanna see what's on the calendar. I don't have to look at the calendar, I wanna look at your message and see what's on the calendar. And then like halfway through the day, she's like, I know it was probably hidden in all the other stuff, but it's your mother-in-law's birthday. Do not forget to call your mother-in-law, because she knows I'm gonna forget, right? Because she's my brain. Does that make sense? And we've been working together long enough for her to know where my faults are and where my strengths are. And that's why she's valuable, and that's why we have a good relationship, right? And I take care of her, right? I'm building her a house in the Philippines right now, basically. That got destroyed in the typhoon a couple months ago. She sent me a picture of her little land with the no house, where a house is supposed to be.
Oh, you have an international assistant,
Mhm.
like Susan.
Virtual assistant,
Okay,
right? Creating smart plans, right? So the goal is what am I trying to make, right? And how am I gonna pull it off, right? And so I would suggest probably some type of blend between this and this, where we're focused on adding people to the database, communicating with those people, and with the chief priority of extracting a handful of those people from the database to listen to me present to you, right? Oh, you're a buyer? Time for a buyer consult. Oh, you're a seller? Let's talk about selling, right? Having a very perfectly organized database that you either don't communicate with enough regularly, or you're afraid to get on the phone with them, isn't gonna set any appointments for you. And Heather, you've been in the business a year or so. Have you ever had a closing without first having an appointment?
No,
Neither have I.
no. In fact, I just got in
you buy her a cup of coffee?
I sure did, and a gift
To her-
card for 2 cups of coffee on me.
Isn't that smart?
And then I gave her
So
those
she's gonna
tickets,
call her in
too.
a couple months and say, hey, my friend's leaving the area, they wanna sell their home.
And I gave her 2 of these as well.
And
So
those are
then I'm
free?
gonna-
And they're free,
Those are
and she
free.
thinks I got
Melody
them
has
for her,
plenty?
and I'm amazing.
Isn't that right? And they're colorful,
Yeah.
so it
Yeah.
looks like you
Right.
spent some cash on the printing.
Yeah.
Right, and we drove through the drive-through at the bank yesterday. And I gave 3 for the 3 women that work at the bank.
I gave it, we actually, there was a really nice woman who sat next to us, and she was talking to us, and I gave her 2 as well. And she said, well, I can't use them, they're my birthday weekend. I said, you can someone at your church. Here's my card.
It's an easy touch.
Doesn't everyone love like free stuff?
Yeah.
It's an easy touch to anybody in your database.
Okay,
But you
here's some
get it to-
other stuff. This is something I found from another website. It's a little slight bit different format of a 135 or a GPS, but I thought it was a cool tracking system. So I'll send you guys a copy of this as well.
Am I passing this out?
No, those are all for you. You are,
I think we gave it
those
2
are-
sets, though.
no, they're all different.
Oh, okay, all right. You really made this
Okay.
So goal is goal.
Anyone have any questions on the 135 before we move to the 411?
I'm still fuzzy on priorities and strategies, but I'll figure it out.
A priority. I think this is for some reason, this is more clear in my head than talking about real estate. But let's go to the lose 20 pounds example.
All right,
That's my goal.
okay,
In order for me to lose 20 pounds, I'm gonna have some priorities, right? My
Okay.
priorities, I'm gonna say, are diet, exercise, and support,
okay.
right? Or community, let's say. Okay? Now, this is a priority. This is a priority and this is a priority. But diet isn't enough. I gotta have some strategies to execute on my proper diet so that I can lose the weight and
Okay.
achieve my goal.
Okay.
So priorities are kind of like they're like the header.
Big
And the
rocks?
strategy, you could think of it that way.
Big rocks.
Like they're
They're
the,
not the biggest rock, but they are big rocks, and then strategies are smaller
Smaller rocks.
rocks.
Or
that
it's like
support the bigger rocks, that's a priority?
exactly, that support the biggest rock, which is the goal.
Goal.
Right, or it's like a header and like a subheader.
Okay,
Don't get too caught up in the language, just get to work.
yeah, so if I want my GCI to be 420,000 by December 31st of this year, that's my big goal.
Yes,
So, priority number 1 would be grow the database.
almost certainly,
Okay.
unless you've ever made that kind of money before.
No, but that's what you guaranteed me when you said, that's,
No pressure.
you would double my business.
Well, it's gonna require a lot of work,
I
and I'm
understand that.
excited to
I'm
watch it all
trying to
happen.
work. So the first strategy under grow the database would be what I was just talking about earlier. Convert
How?
all the orphaned clients
Exactly,
from all the deals that I've had in the past.
exactly,
That's a strategy that's first priority that gets to the goal.
100%.
Okay, so
100%.
strategies are how.
Or the
And-
action.
Yeah,
Strategies are actions.
how, action, same
Priorities
idea.
are
I'm
plan.
glad you said that, I think that brings some clarity to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
Okay.
priority's the plan to get to the goal.
okay.
The priority is almost like sub-goals, if you will.
Right.
Sub-goals, yeah, or
What do I have to do to
The
get to
how.
that goal, to accomplish that goal?
Exactly. The most important part is that you're thinking about it, and the second most important part is that it's visual, right? All right, we clear on all that?
yeah,
So again, if you have a goal, business related or non-business related, that is important to you, right? It could be financial, it could be, I wanna get out of debt. It could be, I wanna buy a second home. It could be, I wanna buy a new car. It could be, I want $100,000 a year in profit share. It could be, I wanna retire by, 5 years from now. Whatever it is, whatever the big goal is, what are the main rocks that are gonna support that? And what are the strategies that I'm gonna have to execute on to make sure it happens? Make sense? Okay. So I'm gonna cut this